Hello again, this is Bob Tejada, another tutorial. In this tutorial, in this tutorial, we will be talking about the Wi-Fi name on a SSID on a network router. Some Wi-Fi routers use a name called the Service Set Identifier. SSID stands for Services Identifier, usually just referenced as SSID, to identify themselves on the local network. Manufacturers set a default service set identifier for their routers at the factory and typically use the same name for all of them. Some routers, for example, usually have the default service set identifier of Linksys, for example, or an AT&T router use a variation of AT&T plus 3 numbers. Why change the SSID? In the previous chapter, remember that we were explaining the steps in how to configure a service set identifier. A service set identifier configuration is only for high-level technicians working in Cisco routers for huge enterprises. The configuration of service set identifier is not to be done on any SOHO router. When I say SOHO router, I'm talking about small businesses and home routers. The only thing that you can do in a SOHO router is change the SSID. I'm going to explain how to change an SSID. People change a default Wi-Fi name for any of several reasons. First, to avoid having the router and network confused with those of neighbors who are also using the same default names. To improve the security of their home network. The name choice does not increase protection by itself. Nonetheless, using a custom name can deter a network attacker because it indicates that router is being more consciously indicate that router is more consciously administered than other routers that use generic defaults. In a typical residential neighborhood with many home network targets to choose from, attackers are more likely to single out the weakest network first. Third, to personalize a home network, the service set identifier can be seen by anyone nearby who scans for Wi-Fi signal from their phone or another mobile device. Each router's instruction manual contains slightly different instructions for changing the service set identifier, although the process in general is fairly common across the major router manufacturers. Exact names of menus and settings may vary depending on the specific model of router in use. Step 1. Log into the network router. Determine the router's local address and log into the router's administrative console through the web browser. Enter the currently active username and password when prompted. Routers use different IP addresses to access their control panels. For example, AT&T router use 192.168.1.254. Linksys routers use 192.168.1.1. Netcons routers use www.routerlogin.com. Some routers use 192.168.0.1. Check the documentation on website of the router manufacturers for the local address and default login credentials of the products. A network message appears if the wrong login credentials are supplied. Quick tip: One way to find your router's address is to check the default gateway. On a Windows PC, press Win plus R as in Roger to open the run box. Then type CMD to open a command prompt window. When the window opens, type ipconfig and review the resulting information for the IP address associated with your machine's default gateway. That's the address you will type into your web browser to access the router's administration panel. Step 2. Navigate to the router's basic wireless setting page. Find the page within the router's control panel that manages configuration of home Wi-Fi networks. Each router's language and menu placement will differ, so you must either refer to documentation or browse the options until you find the right page. Step 3. Choose and enter a new service set identifier. Choose a suitable network name and enter it. An SSID is case sensitive and has a maximum length of 32 alphanumeric characters. Care should be taken to avoid choosing words and phrases offensive to the local community. Names that may provoke network attackers such as "hack me if you can" and "go ahead, make my day" should also be avoided. Click Save and commit your changes, which take effect immediately. Step 4. Re-authenticate to Wi-Fi. When you commit the changes in the router control panel, they take effect immediately. You will need to update the connection for all your devices that used the previous service identifier and password combination. I hope that this tutorial was helpful. Thank you very much. See you next time in another chapter from Netcons. Thank you very much. I wish you a very nice day. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Aggregate any comment at the end of this video clip. Thank you. Have a nice day.